One of my favourite things to do at the start of a new year is to plan adventures, to think about the journeys that I might take in the year to come. And you might like to do that too. If you do so, you're not alone. January is the busiest time for booking holidays and flights. So it's a wonderful thing to do, to be looking forward to what the year might hold. But I think at the start of a new year, we should be planning for even more important journeys than that. That we should be planning our new adventures in faith in the year ahead. We should be seeking that which God has in store for us in the year to come and where God is leading us. And what we're doing this Sunday, as we remember and celebrate the Epiphany, is we're remembering the great journey of the Magi. And that word Epiphany, it means the great realization or the great revelation. And their journey is an inspiration to us in the year ahead. So the Magi are strange and rather mysterious figures. We don't know much about them, but we can put some things together. But I think they're actually more important than we realize, because up till now, the Nativity has been a rather parochial affair. It is a poor young couple giving birth in a provincial town, and the only witnesses to this apparently earth-shattering event are a few scruffy shepherds. But then, all of a sudden, apparently out of the blue, appear these remarkable figures. And they give a glimpse into the global and even cosmic implications of this birth. Our reading began in verse 1. After Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea, during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, "Where is the one who has been born, King of the Jews? We saw his star in the east, and we have come to worship him." Who are they? Well, we easily forget that the place where Jesus was born is at the crossroads of empires. So we're very aware of the sort of significance of the Roman Empire in the first century, but the other great empire in that time is Persia. And the border is not that far from where Jesus was born. And our best guess about these characters is that they are academics and astronomers and mystics from, most likely, Babylon. And they have given their lives studying the heavens. And they also seem to be experts in sort of ancient literature. And amongst that would have been the Hebrew scriptures. And so when they see something unprecedented in the stars and they do their research, the conclusion that they come to is that this is signifying the birth of the long-promised Messiah, the Christ, in Bethlehem. And so they set out to follow where that leads and to see what it all means. And perhaps that's the most impressive thing about them, that they get a glimpse of what God is doing in the world, and they set out to follow that. They set out on the journey no matter the cost. They follow the evidence and the truth to where it leads. And I think that they are, we should learn from them. We should be inspired by them. So I've got a few little bits of sort of wisdom from the wise men for us at the start of a new year. The first is this: the journey of faith requires setting out. It requires a departure. It isn't static. We are called ever onwards. We are called to be pilgrims on a journey. And they set out in search of the Christ child. And in doing so, they leave behind their comfort and their security and all that they know to seek a better king. Do they know where they're going? I don't think so, only in the vaguest sense, and yet they set out nonetheless. And so we, like them, I think, need to be willing to set out. What does God have in store for us? Where is he calling us? We can't necessarily answer that, but inspired by the wise men, we say in faith we step out anyway, not knowing where we will end up. Our natures so much are to choose security and comfort. But the danger of that is that we just get too comfortable and that we stop growing. You know, like when you have a pot plant and the pot is a little bit too small and that you become sort of root bound, there's a real danger that happens to us as well. That our horizons become limited, our hopes and our aspirations. Well, we fail to imagine what's possible. So to set out is to let down our guard, to be willing to do new things, to go to new places, to meet new people. And in that, we might need to accept a little discomfort and be a little bit vulnerable. And it means to travel light, to sort of throw off the baggage that hinders us, those crummy habits that we fall into that don't really serve us. To be willing to say to God, I will go where you call me, wherever that is. And I want to see the new things that you have to show me. And I'm ready to learn that which you would have me learn. So the journey of faith requires setting out. And it is a journey which may not be very easy. In fact, I could probably go further than that to say it probably won't be easy at all. That the journeys that matter very rarely are. So the wise men had to cross international borders and empires. They would have traveled through war zones and gone into uncharted territory. And wherever they went, they would have faced suspicion and certainly inhospitality and discomfort. And they must, from time to time, have been tempted to think, what are we doing? Why are we here? Where are we going? Maybe we should turn around and go home again. We often have a rather romanticized idea of travel, don't we? I don't know. If it doesn't look like it did in the internet webpage or on Instagram, we get a bit discouraged. But the great journeys are often quite difficult, but it's probably in those hardest of times that we learn the most and that we learn to trust in God and to depend on him. I remember a wonderful film I watched at a film festival one time. It was very quirky, but it was about two people who lived on the west coast of America, just got married, and they'd set out on this crazy journey to walk up to Alaska. Never seen anything like it. And they were frankly very unimpressive when they set out and not very well prepared, and he thought, this is not going to go very well. And in many ways it didn't go very well, but they overcame. And as they went on, you saw them change. And by the end of the journey, they were remarkable. They had been transformed by the journey that they were on. I always remember them, and I think that the journey of faith is intended to do the same for us. That it might be hard, but it is in the hardship that we grow and we learn and we become more faithful and more competent. The wise men inspire us to keep going when it's hard. And, one of the most frequent exhortations in the New Testament is to persevere. Keep going. Don't give up. Don't allow your heart to be downcast. Be faithful. Continue. So we need to set out. The journey may not be easy, but one of the things we can take from the wise men is that the journey is much easier if we don't try and travel alone. So I love that there's several of them. We don't actually know how many of them, but they go together. And the journey has always been harder if you try and do it alone. It's really important to have people around you who encourage you and inspire you and who love you and who will keep you going when it is tough. Who are your wise men and women? Who are those who you are on the journey with? They might be near to you. They might be on the other side of the world. and yet they are the ones who walk with you. And it's also important to think, who are the ones who I am called to be the wise men for? Who are the ones whose responsibility it is that I'm doing the encouraging and the loving and the keeping them going? Because it's all too easy for people to be walking the life of faith, walking life by themselves. Make plans to travel with good people, to walk alongside them, and keep a lookout for those who are on the journey too, and spend time with them, be that in person or virtually. But remember that as travelers, it's a hard road, and you need wise people alongside you. Keep them close and be that for other people. Next, be prepared that the destination may not be what you expect. So, I know exactly what the wise men were expecting the journey to be, because they'd clearly set out looking for a king, and so they naturally thought that it would be an impressive destination and that there would be grandeur and probably palaces. And that expectation led them astray quite badly, and it was a mistake. And it led them into the dangers of King Herod, and that could have been fatal. So their expectations of how it was going to look led them astray. And there's a real danger for us that our expectations of what the life of faith is going to look like will also lead us astray. God leads us to unexpected places. So verse 11, on coming to the house, they saw the child with his mother Mary, and they bowed down and worshipped him. This, I think, is the most impressive thing about these wise men, about these Magi. That having made their mistake, having gone astray, when they were then led by the star to the right place, and they found themselves somewhere very, very ordinary. A poor young mother with an infant, and yet they have the faith to see the purposes of God in that and to bow down and worship. That, I think, is the most impressive thing about them at all, to learn from their mistake and to then discover in the ordinary surroundings the very purposes of God. We all too often are impatient to see God act in impressive or dramatic ways. But the truth may well be that God works most of all in the ordinary and the everyday things. And that it is our faithfulness in the ordinary and the everyday things in which God is most honored. It is in the way that we live and we relate to one another and we love and serve and pray. God cares less about the big things and more about the details of our lives. And that is where our faithfulness and our humility are seen at work. And I think the final thing to say is connected to that, because worship is a serious business. The reason they set out on this journey and what they do at the conclusion of it is that they worship. When they saw the child with his mother, they bowed down and they worshipped him. That act of choosing who or what you are serving is what we do when we worship. And they are willing to humble themselves and acknowledge Christ as King. Worship is choosing who we serve. And if we are not worshipping the true King, then we are worshipping something else, because we all worship. We, like the wise men, need to make the choice to worship, to choose Christ, to commit ourselves to him day by day, to perhaps literally bend the knee and make that decision. Like the wise men, we too need to bring our gifts, because actually that's what the word worship means. It means sacrifice. And they bring these astonishing gifts and they give them to Christ. In the same way, we need to choose day by day, week by week, to give the gifts that we have in service of God and of others. We give of ourselves in response to God's great gift. You see, that's the choice that we have to make. Worship is a serious business. And perhaps the most important thing that the wise men tell us is to choose day by day. Who are you serving? Who are you worshipping? We give of ourselves in response to God's great gift. So this is Epiphany. We, like the wise men, have seen the star, and we too need to set out on this journey to leave behind our comfort and our security. And though we may not know the final destination, we, like them, are seeking a new and a better king and a new and a better kingdom. We need to renew our courage and our faith, and we need to persevere despite the hardships and follow the star wherever it leads, seeking this revelation of God, seeking this epiphany. And so at the start of a new year, let us set out together once more on this journey. Amen.